let me just say, there is no evidence that there was some top-down order of political retribution in either the Obama or the Biden administrations. I'll concede to you that Donald Trump.
But they made up like the Russian hoax, and they used information to go after Donald Trump to try to undermine his entire presidency.
Okay.
And they all signed their names to it.
Are you going to give me a second to talk or no?
No, but like you can't say that didn't happen.
You're watching Abby Phillip on CNN completely lose her composure the second someone points out the obvious truth. This isn't about Trump inventing some new strategy with the Justice Department. No, this is about Democrats projecting their own playbook onto him, the same playbook they've been running for years. And when the tables finally turn, suddenly they call it an outrage. Because right now, Democrats and their allies in the media are panicking over the FBI raid on John Bolton. Think about the irony here. When they went after Trump with endless investigations, when they fueled the so-called Russia hoax, that was all framed as justice. But when the spotlight shifts onto one of their own, suddenly those exact same tactics are dangerous and unprecedented. It's almost comical. For years, they've dished out political lawfare like it was their favorite sport. But now that the ball's heading back their way, they're crying foul. And the meltdown we just saw from Abby Phillip, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Because what's really happening is that the narrative is collapsing right in front of them. And here's Ben Ferguson stepping in to call her out while she throws a very public tantrum on live TV.
It happened.
The Russia hoax, first of all, was Donald Trump prosecuted?
They did it to impeach
was he
him. He was
prosecuted?
impeached
Was he?
over it.
Okay, so he.
That's
okay.
a big deal. It's called overthrowing the will of the people.
First of all, he was impeached over his handling of Ukraine. He was not impeached over the Russia investigation.
Over a perfectly good phone call, which, by the way, became accurate on Hunter Biden.
The second thing is, let me just read to you a list of people that Donald Trump and his top cabinet secretaries have said are going to be the subject of investigations. The special counsel Jack Smith, former FBI Director James Comey, former CIA Director John Brennan, Senator Adam Schiff, AG Letitia James, President Barack Obama,
they abused their power.
Governor Phil Murphy,
and
Representative Monica McIver. So there is a list that comes right from the top. I'm not making this up.
They put themselves on the list because they weaponized the government to attack their political opponents.
So in one case, let me just say, in one case, you all are making connections based on conjecture. In another case, Donald Trump is just saying the thing. So those are two very different situations. Okay, the IRS.
So Obama didn't know what was going on in his government? He didn't know what his.
If you can provide me proof that Barack Obama directed the IRS to go after Tea Party groups, I will concede that to you immediately.
If you can provide me proof that Donald Trump
doesn't
called
exist.
the FBI today and said go in.
That proof does not exist. Okay, that is the only point that I make.
It's almost laughable to watch Abby Phillip throw a fit on live television about being interrupted. Think about that for a moment. This is CNN, a network that has built its entire reputation on shutting down conservatives mid-sentence. They don't debate, they don't argue ideas, they silence. That's their model. That's the brand. And Abby, she's not just a bystander in that system, she's one of its most reliable enforcers. She cuts off Scott Jennings nearly every time he begins to land a solid point. That's the routine. They'll let him start, and the second the argument gets dangerous for their narrative, they yank control back. But the moment Abby feels that same tactic turned on her, suddenly it's beneath her. Suddenly it's unfair. That's hypocrisy in its rawest form. Now let's deal with the other side of the story, John Bolton. He isn't some innocent man being unfairly dragged through the mud. He cashed in, plain and simple. He released a tell-all book filled with classified details, knowing exactly what he was doing, knowing the attention and the money it would bring. And now the federal government wants to know whether he crossed the line into breaking the law? That's not political persecution. That's accountability. But Democrats and their allies in the press want you to believe a different story. They want to frame this as Trump inventing something new, as if this so-called weaponization of the DOJ was born out of thin air in 2016. It's as if history simply started when Trump walked down that escalator. But the record tells a different truth. Obama's IRS targeting scandal, Biden's Mar-a-Lago raid, the entire Russia collusion hoax, these weren't accidents. They were deliberate strategies, carefully played out over years. This has always been their game. They just never expected it to boomerang back toward them. And that's why Abby's tantrum on CNN is so telling. It isn't outrage. It's theater. It's performance art. staged outrage designed to distract from the bigger reality. And as Greg Gutfeld points out, the whole act is nothing but political stagecraft.
People say it's retribution. I say, who cares? You know, don't lecture me on timing of lawfare. Don't lecture me on politically motivated, investigations. You guys invented this stuff. You love doing it to Trump because you didn't think it through. You were so confident that Trump was toast, that you could rattle off free punch after free punch after free punch without any fear of reprisal. So yeah, is it retribution? I don't know. But when you think about the constant lawfare, the gerrymandering, the Dems never expect it to happen to them. They're like home invaders who didn't expect a well-armed occupant when they showed up. And Trump is well-armed. This is kind of an ongoing masterclass for the Republican Party, the new Republican Party. To quote Greasy Gav, how to fight fire with fire. The conservative movement, which I loved for the longest time, they were kind of happy to fritter away their influence and power on the notion that they were always above returning fire. Oh, I write for National Review. This is disgusting. Let's write a 4,000-word piece on judicial reform. And then they don't do anything. They go back and smoke their cigar. They always felt it was beneath them to get in the ring and hit back. So it's one of the presents that Trump gave the Republicans that they desperately needed were balls the size of...
You know what's truly ironic? Watching Democrats accuse Donald Trump of doing the very things they've already been caught doing for years. It's the oldest political trick in the book. Accuse your opponent of the crimes you're guilty of, flip the narrative, and then cry foul when justice eventually turns around and knocks on your own door. We've seen this pattern before. Think back to Harry Reid in 2013. He thought he was being clever when he nuked the filibuster rule in the Senate. It was supposed to give Democrats free reign over judicial confirmations. But what happened? That move backfired spectacularly. It handed conservatives the Supreme Court majority that would go on to overturn Roe v. Wade. That's not just politics.
Presence that Trump
That's
gave
political
the
karma
Republicans
in action.
that
And
they
now John Bolton is staring down his own version of that same lesson. For years, he played the game, leaking classified information, cashing in on insider status, convincing himself he was untouchable. But when you mess with classified material, you're not just skirting the rules. You're walking straight into a legal minefield. And those mines have a way of blowing back when you least expect it. The truth is, even if Bolton never sees the inside of a jail cell, the fallout from this raid could be devastating. The FBI showing up at your door is career-ending. It stains reputations, drains bank accounts, and reshapes your entire life. And as Scott Jennings explains, the damage doesn't just come from potential charges. It comes from the process itself. The stress, the costs, the uncertainty. That's the real weight of an investigation like this.
A little kind of a question off to the side here. You served in the George W. Bush administration. There are investigations that often surround administrations in different ways, and you had to testify and were deposed as part of that. That's far different than what's going on here. I mean, Bolton himself is being investigated specifically. But what does it do to your life in terms of upheaval when you're connected to an investigation? How much does it cost in terms of money, resources, and just emotional impact?
Oh, it can cost quite a lot. I mean, to get attorneys and to sit through the process of preparing and going through all your records and answering their questions and then practicing and then going in and doing it. I mean, you rack up hours, and Washington, D.C. attorneys ain't cheap, as they say. So from that perspective, it can be very taxing. It's mentally taxing. There's a lot of anxiety that goes along with it. In my case, I wasn't being investigated for anything criminal and wasn't the target of any criminal investigation. I was merely talking to congressional committees. But it's still an emotionally taxing situation, particularly when as I knew in my case, I had done nothing wrong. But I was certainly being dragged in as part of a political investigation. They hated my boss, Karl Rove, and they wanted to get to anybody who was connected to Karl Rove. And so that's what happened in that case. I emerged on the other side of it perfectly fine. But it can turn your life upside down to some degree. Now, what Bolton is dealing with here is different. This is FBI coming into your house, grand juries, possible criminal charges. That's what so that's a whole nother level of anxiety that I did not have to do.
Let's be clear about what happens when the FBI shows up at your front door. Even without a conviction, even without a single charge, the moment that search warrant is executed, your career is finished. Your reputation is shattered. That's the cost of playing fast and loose with classified information while pretending you're somehow above the rules everyone else has to follow. Democrats and their allies in the media can scream political all day long, but the reality doesn't change. John Bolton made his bed. He undermined Trump at every opportunity. He leaked sensitive information to line his own pockets. And now the accountability he thought he'd never face is staring him down. And here's the part no one wants to admit. It's hard to feel any sympathy because the bigger picture is crystal clear. Democrats are reaping exactly what they sowed. They were the ones who normalized the raids. They were the ones who embraced lawfare politics as a weapon. And now those same tactics are turning right back on them. It's political karma playing out in real time. But here's where I want to hear from you. Do you believe the raid on Bolton was unwarranted? Or is this simply Democrats choking on their own projection, finally trapped by the system they created? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this breakdown valuable, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss the next one. It really does help us keep pushing these stories forward. Thank you for watching. This has been the Narrative Watch. See you next time.